we going to handle these 2 weeks now with the last preseason game eliminated and a little wait before the regular season?
So this week's kind of a hybrid of a normal game week. We're going to introduce, the preliminary plan, if you will, and then the following week will be our typical game week in terms of how we structure our day, the meetings, the practice, and then it just kind of gives the guys a little bit of insight into, especially for the guys that haven't been here, just our weekly routine.
Once you get through Tuesday and roster and practice squad, will you get the guys on the field this week for a little bit?
Yeah, so the plan right now is on Tuesday to have a practice with the 53. We'll see where we're at as far as, health-wise, but it'll be a quicker practice. And then Wednesday and Thursday, we'll have our practice squad players with us. So we'll have the 69-man roster, and we'll get 2 good practices in those 2 days, and then they're off Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
You in communication at all with the Saints about this hurricane? I mean, they've had to leave town. Who knows what's going to happen over the next couple of days here.
Yeah, I have not had any communication with anybody. I know that the league's monitoring it, certainly, and, obviously your thoughts are with all those people down there that are going through this. I know from my own experience, I was in Houston in 2009 and going through Hurricane Ike, and that was not a whole lot of fun. So, I just hope they do right by everybody and help everybody stay safe down there, and I'm sure we'll figure it out later.
You have a starting offensive line yet?
We do, Bill.
Okay, I figured so.
But I'm not going to tell you yet. So, yeah, we do. We have a pretty good idea of what we're going to do. We do still have some more practices, but we won't unveil any of that until game time.
And I asked Aaron about Quez the other day, how he's improved on the field, and he said he just wanted to talk about how he's improved off the field, kind of his headspace, how his practice habits are a lot better. How have you seen that change, and how does that translate to what he does on the field?
Yeah, I've seen a guy do a total 180. Not that it was. I don't want to make it sound like he wasn't a good practice player before, because that certainly isn't the case. But I would tell you, from the moment he steps on that field, whether it's in pre-practice, in our stretching routine, I think he's got a different mindset about it, and I think it's translated to his play, his ability to produce consistently in practice. We've all seen the great flashes that he's been able to show, and because there are some big time moments that he's had. I just think they're happening much more consistently now, and I think that's a credit to his approach and where he's at mentally. He's always been a very intelligent player. I do think it takes some guys, a little bit of time to really realize their own potential and put it all together. So I think that's what we've been able to see from Marquez, and just really happy for him, and know that he's going to be a big part of what we do moving forward.
Yeah, I realize injuries are a big part of the 53 decisions, but a couple of guys, I'm curious, would they be ready if they were on the roster? Kelly and Lancaster, are those guys long-term, or are those guys okay?
Yeah, I think those are 2 guys that, we would be optimistic that they would be ready to go week 1, but certainly with anything, I would say more in the questionable category.
Matt, getting back to the receivers, we'll see what happens, obviously, with number 6 or whatever you guys decide to do. But I think we all knew coming into training camp who the top 5 wide receivers were going to be. What do you think you have as far as that group as a whole? What do you like the most about just that collective group, those first 5 guys?
Well, we have some pretty good versatility there. We have a legitimate number 1 receiver, and I know for a fact that not everybody can say that in the league. We've got a guy that can really dictate coverage, because you got to pick your poison. Do you want to leave him one-on-one, or do you want to, roll to him and play a two safety defense and try to take Devontae away that way? But also, I think just the group as a whole has just something different that they can bring to this team. I mean, we just talked about MVS. His obvious trait is his ability to take the top off the coverage and make big-time plays down the field. I think Alan Lazard is kind of, I like to call him our goon, and he's an enforcer, and in the run game, you can really feel his presence, but that also helps create some big-time plays in the passing game when he's going in and he's digging out safeties, and just like you saw last year in the playoff game versus the Rams. That was, I want to say, one of the longest plays they had given up all season long. So he's got that big play potential as well, and we saw it last year in New Orleans. He had 2 long plays in that game. So then you look at Randall and what he's been able to bring, and just in terms of, he's just a very good veteran in the slot that knows how to attack people. He knows how to stick his foot in the ground to separate, and certainly we'll rely on that. And then Amari's a young guy that's kind of finding his way, so to speak. And I thought the preseason was pretty good learning experience for him. He's a young player, and he's still got a long ways to go, but he's a guy that we're pretty excited about. And I think just his versatility with what he can do, not only as a returner, but just trying to get the ball in his hands, because he's a physical guy that can run through arm tackles, and just excited about his growth and what his potential will be down the road. But again, there's a learning curve there. So I do think we have a nice versatile group, guys that can fulfill a lot of different roles, and it's on us as coaches to make sure we put those guys in a really good position to go out there and be successful.
We kind of said that at one point that this year expects some more movement to be happening because there's more betting time in between after this cut day, and for people to look at for their practice squads. So that being said, Bangleton and Wade Taylor, the idea that they played really well, they've had great preseasons, is the fact that maybe they might get more looks at by another team going to factor into that final decision, or do you have to just kind of weigh all those kind of things equally?
Yeah, I think we look at everything. Certainly those guys did have really good preseasons, and really happy with how they performed, and they had a lot of exposure. So, there's some tough decisions that are going to come down to, where you feel like you really can't make a bad decision, although they are difficult because you'd like to keep all 80 of these guys, but that's not the reality of what the situation we're in. And again, those guys have done a nice job, and they made it hard on us.
You just talked at depth about the receivers. I don't know how to ask this without you trying to give away stuff, but Collins had a good preseason. Your other 2 running backs are pretty decent too. How do you get Kyle involved without taking away from Aaron Jones and Dylan? Is that something that's a good problem? It's a good problem to have, but do you spend? You're a creative offensive guy.
Yeah, again, it all comes down to different choices. What do you choose? What do you want to do? And how are you going to get all these guys the ball? That's something that we weigh each and every week, and I think a lot of times it has a way of naturally kind of working itself out. And, but certainly, yeah, you'd rather have a lot of playmakers than no playmakers. So we'll figure it out as we go.
Are you considered at snapper, long snapper?
Well, Hunter's done a good job. I think we still there's moments of inconsistency, but certainly he's got a lot of experience, and I think he's gotten better and better. And so we do feel pretty confident with him in terms of what we know what we're going to get. And again, it's just challenging him to be consistent on a daily basis.
All right, good in here. Sarah, let's go to Zoom.
Yep, we have a couple in here. First, Steve McGargy.
Talk about this kind of this 2-week gap you have now between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season. I was just wondering, do you like having this little bit of a break now between the end of the preseason and the start of the regular season, or did you like it better when it was just the 1 week?
I think I'll have a better answer for you, Steve, as soon as we go through it. But no, it is what it is. I try not to think too much about what do you like better? This is the schedule that the league gave us, and we're going to try to make the best of it. I think there's been a lot of thought in terms of how we want to structure these last 2 weeks and how we just go about our process. But, it's the same for everybody, so that leaves you sleeping easy, I guess, at night, and you just try to do the best job you can and make the best decisions for this football team.
Tom Silverstein?
In that, where did you think that Jordan Love was challenged the most yesterday? And did you create situations to try to challenge him at all with your play calling?
Well, I would say that the most challenging thing he had to deal with was going up against a pretty good football team and they played their starters for a good majority of that first half. And some of those guys were even in there, I think, in the first drive in the second half. So I think that's always a challenge when you go against good players. I think just being out in front of a crowd and dealing with the crowd noise was certainly a challenge. We talked about it last night. We had that one mistake down in the red zone on a 3rd and goal from the 5-yard line where we never got the ball snapped. Took the delay of game, and that puts you in a really tough situation. You're talking about 3rd and goal from the 10. The probability is not very high there, and I think that just when you look at that play, we had some pressure in his face on that 3rd down, and he cannot put the ball in jeopardy, and he did that. He did that on the keeper, but I think he'll learn from those, and I think there was a lot of good moments for him, and we just got to make sure that he understands how precious ball security is in this league.
Aaron Engler?
Coach, you kind of jumped on a question there, but do you almost, as a coach, like the idea that, yes, he put the ball in jeopardy on the play, but he's getting stepped on by his lineman, there's a guy instantly in his face. You never want him to throw it up like that. You made a great play on 4th down. Is it a pretty great teachable moment, though, for you as a coach?
Oh, absolutely. I think just all those reps are just so valuable for young quarterbacks, for young players in general, but specifically at that position. I thought, but I will say that the guys around him, I thought everybody was competing at a high level. I was really impressed with how we protected up front for the most part, and in the run game we were able to kind of control the line of scrimmage on a lot of those runs. So I thought the guys around him played pretty well, and I thought there was a lot of good plays that Jordan made.
And last one in here, Ryan Wood.
And you said you have a pretty good idea what you'll do on the offensive line for week 1, but in the next 24 hours, is there any chance that David Bakhtiari might be activated for PUP, or is that just not going to be in the cards?
That is something that I am not willing to share right now, and you guys will find out soon enough. But those conversations are ongoing, and we're going to do what's best for David and for this football team.